Today we will be studying the Armenian Genocide, which occurred from 1915 to 1918, presented by Damon Benson,
Anthony's Childers,
Kyla Amani,
Richard Brown,
and Frederick Armstrong.
First, we'll look at an overview of the Armenian Genocide. The Armenian Genocide was the systematic killing and deportation of Armenians that was carried out by the Young Turk government of the Ottoman Empire. In 1915, during World War I, leaders of the Turkish government set in motion a plan to expel and massacre Armenians. Next, we will take a view at some maps of the Armenian Genocide. The Armenian Genocide took place in the Ottoman Empire, which is present-day Turkey. This is a map of the countries surrounding the Ottoman Empire, which is Russia to your top right. We have Italy to your left, and then we have Iraq at the bottom.
For background, the Ottoman rulers were Muslim. They permitted religious minorities to maintain the autonomy. Other religions had very few political or legal rights. The Armenian community tended to be better educated and wealthier than their Turkish neighbors, who in turn grew to resent their success. Resentment was compounded by suspicions that the Christian Armenians would be more loyal to the Christian governments than they were to the Ottoman Caliphate. Ottoman Empire began to crumble, and at the end of the 19th century, Sultan Abdul Hamid II, who was obsessed with loyalty above all, became angry about the Armenian campaign to win basic civil rights, and declared that he would solve the Armenian question once and for all. Between 1894 and 1896, Turkish Sultan Abdul Hamid II carried out his plan where he took the form of state-sanctioned pogrom. A series of massacres throughout the empire meant to frighten Armenians and so dampen their expectations, cost up to 300,000 lives by some estimates, and inflicted enormous material losses on a majority of Armenians. In 1908, a group of reformers who called themselves the Young Turks overthrew Sultan Abdul Hamid and established a more modern constitutional government. The Armenians were hopeful that they would have an equal place in this new state, but they soon learned that what the nationalistic Young Turks wanted most was to Turkify the empire. According to this way of thinking, non-Turks, and especially Christian non-Turks, were a grave threat to the new state.
Now we'll be talking about events of the Armenian Genocide. When World War I broke out in August 1914, the Ottoman Empire formed part of the Triple Alliance with the other Central Powers, Germany and Austria-Hungary, and it declared war on Russia and its Western allies, Great Britain and France. Once the Ottoman Empire were defeated by the Russians, Armenian soldiers were demobilized and wrongfully accused of being traitors because they were believed to be sympathetic towards Christian Russians. The unarmed soldiers were then systematically murdered by Ottoman troops. The Ottoman army used the occasion of war to wage a collateral campaign of massacre against the civilian Armenian population in the regions in which warfare was being conducted. In May 1915, the Ottoman Parliament officially passed legislation authorizing the deportation of over 1 million Armenian women, children, and elders. The Armenians were forced to march towards concentration camps through the Mesopotamian desert without food or water. 75% of Armenians died on this march. Young Turks created a special organization, which in turn organized killing squads. They drowned people in rivers, threw them off cliffs, crucified, and burned them alive. In short order, the Turkish countryside was littered with Armenian corpses. And here's a map showing the route of the death marches and the concentration camp locations.
The next portion we'll be covering is the aftermath. After the Ottomans surrendered in 1918, leaders of the genocide were assassinated. Armenians lost all their wealth and property. The Turkish government had denied that a genocide took place. They argued that the Armenians were an enemy force. They called the genocide the so-called Armenian Genocide. The Near East Relief was established in 1919 to provide aid to survivors of the Armenian Genocide. Uruguay was the first country to officially recognize the Armenian Genocide. Alabama became the 49th state to recognize the Armenian Genocide.
Now we're going to play a quick game of Kahoot for a prize.